بسم الله. Welcome for your coming and attending the sessions in the third day of Saudi International Conference for Medical Laboratory. It is my honor to start the speech today, and I will discuss the pre-analytical errors in the clinical laboratory. So the first of all, as you know, the preclinical laboratory, it is errors, it is a part of the quality. So the major issue or the major concern in the errors, it's in order to track the quality of the performance in the clinical laboratory. So we will start, as William Foster said, the quality, it's never an accident. It is always the result of high intention and censored effort, intelligent direction, and skillful execution, and it represents the wise choice of many alternatives. Whenever we do our track the quality of the work in the clinical laboratory, we need to continue assessing the quality of performance during the clinical applications in the clinical laboratory. So we need a major, one of the major parts in the quality, which is a quality assurance. So we need every time to look what happened during the month of receiving the sample, processing the sample, analyzing the patient's specimen to provide more precise and accurate results and to diagnose the disease for the patient. So the quality assurance, it is a way of preventing mistakes or defect in the manufactured product and avoiding the problems when delivering the, okay. Okay, could you please present Okay, so when we're delivering the quality solutions or service to customers, our customer or stakeholders here is the patient. So we are keen to provide the best of best service for our patients to deliver the appropriate diagnosis in appropriate time. So major clinical errors, it was classified according to the FDA and the quality three phases. The first phase, which is the pre-examinations errors that happened during the pre-examinations, and the second phase, it is through the examination in the clinical laboratories, and the third phase is classified as the post-examination, when we deliver the result for the physician in the clinic to diagnose the patients. The major errors which is frequently happen in during the quality cycle, it is in the pre-examination, which is it's about 46 to 68% of the total clinical errors after collecting the sample from the patients till it's arrived to the laboratory in order to diagnose the disease. That's why today our talk will focus on pre-examination error. There is multi reasons why the samples, when we received in the lab, it's rejected due to the pre-analytical errors. So huge number of samples due to no request form received. The sample sometimes coming to the lab with no appropriate forms. For example, they send the sample for hematology. However, the test request for histology, sometimes the sample is coming with no patient number, no patient ID, or the form is incomplete. Sometimes because there is no test requested, they enter everything, collect the sample, but we didn't know the patient, what the doctor or the physician, what he's talking about, so we cannot do or perform the test, the appropriate test for patients. That's why the sample, it is in risk of rejection. If they did not respond to us and answer the question in the laboratory, why we send the sample, we cannot help the students, help the patients. View, please, on the. So the first, when the study it's done in receive the sample in biochemistry lab. Regarding how many preclinical errors, there was the major sample is rejected in biochemistry due to inappropriate samples. For example, the doctor or the physician requests blood sugar analysis, and the sample we received the ADTA sample or heparin sample. It is not appropriate sample to analyze this test. That's why about 55 samples is rejected in biochemistry lab due to inappropriate sample collection, and the second stage of the samples, which is not accepted in the laboratory, it's due to incomplete form. We don't know the name of the patients, or sometimes the patient ID is missed, or the collection time of the sample, it's not appropriate. The third coming samples is rejected in the biochemistry due to inappropriate test tube. And the last one is less than 20% of samples rejected in hematology in biochemistry lab due to inappropriate volume. So the machine, it's required about 1 ml of the blood to analyze the sample. We received less than this quantity. Well, the study also done for the majority of samples is rejected in hematology lab is about 55% of the sample rejected due to insufficient sample. Again, low volume, it is less than required sample. So when we analyze the sample in the instrument, it is short, so we cannot have appropriate result. And this is from the beginning, before processing the sample, it will be rejected. The second, more rejected sample in hematology lab, it is because of a collected sample or clotted sample, or clotted blood, and inappropriate test tubes. So for example, we're looking for full blood count, and the sample is coming to the hematology lab in sodium citrate and blue tube, which is not accepted. That's why the majority of the samples, either insufficient clotted sample or inappropriate test tube, is rejected in this reason in hematology. Also, there is a study published in 2019 by in a study done in Al-Qura University on hematology lab. The majority of samples is rejected. Sorry, it is histopathology lab. It's not hematology, histopathology lab, due to inappropriate hospital registration number for the sample. So the sample is coming without patient number, so we cannot analyze the sample. And about more than 75% of sample is coming without label, and some of the samples is or tissue pipes is coming without the name of the tissue, so we cannot analyze the sample due to missing of the tissue name in histology lab. In blood bank, in a study done in 2016, the majority of the samples rejected in blood bank due to no label. The samples is collected in a phlebotomy or in inpatient or outpatient. It is not labeled at all, so we cannot analyze the sample. The second, it's about 30% of samples rejected in blood bank due to inappropriate blood component request. The patient has an anemia, low hemoglobin, he needs actually the RBC component, they send a test request for platelets. Also, there was mismatching labeling. Sometimes they sent more than one samples at the same time for different patients. They put the test request with a different patient and vice versa, so they mismatch the sample when they collect the sample from the patients. So this is the major errors, clinical errors happened with the patients during collection of the sample, and definitely that will affect on the releasing the result for the patient. It will lead to delay the diagnosis for patient, and that will reduce the quality of the service and laboratory performance due to the delay or inappropriate sample collection. So when we analyze all samples are rejected in the laboratory, it's become about 90% of samples is rejected in the medical laboratory as blood. So that means we have a big issue with collection of blood from different clinic, from different phlebotomists and different sections or departments in the hospital. So this is a major issue. We need to look for it and sort this issue. The second thing, it's about 7% only from the urine sample is rejected due to inappropriate collection of the sample. Then the 3% is about body fluid, and finally about the stool. So also there is a study was published about 2013. They looking for the biological variations or errors in the pre-analytical errors, not only about the sample, it is sometimes about other variations which is called biological variations. So the sum of the sample, there is a variation in the intra-individuals when the patients or the normal variation analyzed about the substance in each individual. So the accuracy of the result released of the lab, it is because of the personal or individual differences between the patients. Also, there is some of the errors classified as pre-analytical errors due to individual parts when the variation and when we analyze the sample or substances between individuals. So sometimes patients, all of them within the normal range, all of them male, all of them at the same age, but the result, it is varied because of these biological variations. Additionally, there is a third element that it could be taken in consideration if the and patient-related physical variables. Some of the patients, they coming with physical stress, or sometimes they already stressed, has a nervous, and he just coming from exercise and would like go to collect a sample or make the blood analysis. That definitely will affect on the accuracy of the result. So the Federation of the Biochemistry, the International Federation of Clinical Biochemistry, they classify the pre-analytical KPIs or key performance indicators based on 6 major indicators that will, all the samples received in the laboratory, it should be under these standards. The first, it was about appropriate request or stability, suitability of the sample, storage and transport of sample, data entry of request, sample identification, patient identification, and sample collection. So these major KPIs when we look for an appropriate test request, the major things we're looking for when track the samples, it is about number of samples without clinical question. So we don't know the patients why the doctor sent this sample for. There is no clear diagnosis or question for the doctor he would like to do, especially with the special lab. Sometimes we do the test result for molecular analysis, for a chromosomal study. These type of requested, never ever we process the sample if there is no major reason why the doctor he sent this sent this sample for test. So missed a couple of samples received in the lab without clear question to investigate. Also, we're looking for to number of inappropriate requests with respect to clinical questions. So sometimes the conditions, the doctor he's writing the condition he's looking for, but in inappropriate requests. So if the patient has, for example, inherited disease, the coming test request, it's about the molecular or testing the cancer marker. Also, we're looking for an appropriate request with respect to clinical question in patients. Also, some of the cases when patients is admitted, we received inappropriate test request. The second standard we look for the key performance indicators is that entry of the request. So when we receive the sample in the lab, we should receive the sample based on a specific requirement. If it is not applicable, we have to reject these samples. So we look for outpatient request with error concerning the physician identification. There is no clear name, or the physician even, he's not write his name clearly, so even if there is any issue with this sample, we cannot contact the physician and discuss the case. Number of intelligible outpatient requests as well. Some of the tests, especially as I mentioned, in a special lab, we receive the sample who's out of the medical city or from the hospital. He is not eligible to do this test request, but some of the samples coming for the patients whose relatives, and they do not have ability to do this in a private sector, so they try to process these samples in governmental labs. Also, we need to track number of requests with errors concerning test input in the lab. So whenever the lab specialist in the laboratories receive the samples, it is requested for a sample, for example, for a KRAS mutation, and the time of collection the sample, it is at 11 o'clock, and he entered it as a 1 o'clock. The time is matter in entering the data. The time is matter, especially with a molecular test. We need to know when the sample is collected. As we know, as you know, this time, it is a matter for the quality of a nucleic acid that we collected from the sample. If the sample is delayed or it is exposed to the high temperature, that affect on the quality. So entering the different number, or sometimes it's not written even the time on the test request, that's a matter for rejection. It will have a risk of rejection. Also, we will look for the number of requests with error concerning the test input. Sometimes not only the time it's entering the sample or testing, for example, only the physician asks one test, and we add more than one test as an opinion of the specialist sometimes, and sometimes because it is not clear, maybe the handwriting or the request. For example, there is a panel of tests should be requested together for to diagnose some of disease, and only the doctor is asked for only one test. That will not add any value if we only do only this test. So we need to add, as lab experts working on the diagnosis of specific disease, to add more than what requested in the request form to give a valuable and formal or complete diagnosis and give a good picture for a physician to diagnose this case. So this is also considered as a preclinical error that affect quality, and we need to count it to track the quality performance in the laboratory. Number of requests with errors concerning the test input, the misinterpretation of the results or misinterpretation of entering the result, which is basically special labs, they need to write
write a report. The report, it's initially written by lab specialist, senior specialist, or the supervisor of the lab. Then it will be reviewed by the pathologist. So whenever there is mistake or misdiagnosis or typing error, that will be counted as pre-analytical error. Also, one of the standards it is to track the pre-analytical error is about the sample identification. This is one of the major issue as well, and we have indicators to count inadequate labeled patient in this regard. If we have error or issues in sample collections, we need to collect the sample in appropriate time in different column. Also, the sample collected with an appropriate sample tube, as well as if the sample is collected in appropriate container, which is sometimes it's not only as a lab specialist looking for or dealing with the sample tube. Also, we dealing with the different containers. It's not only the anticoagulant tube. Also, number of sample with insufficient sample volumes, it should be counted in order to track the quality performance in pre-analytical errors. Also, we have a major issue frequently happen regarding the storage and transport the sample to the lab. And mainly, we need to count the damaged sample or tube containers during that transportation. As you know, and maybe some of the hospitals still, they depend on the physical transportation of the sample to the laboratory. That will lead a major defect or damage in the sample. Sometimes we receive the sample leaked, broken, and some of them it is sometimes exposed to high temperature, and that means the blood sample or any other type of sample, it will be damaged before the analysis. So that will affect on the accuracy of the result which will be released. Number of sample is transported at an appropriate time as well. Sometimes, especially people who's working in the lab and out in the late night shift, they sometimes keep the samples on the bench till the morning shift. They coming to process these samples. These also is returned because the transportation of the sample, it was in appropriate time. Number of improperly stored samples. Sometimes we need to receive the sample in the lab in ice. That will save the sample to release appropriate result. For example, samples received by chemistry for blood gases. If we receive it in room temperature, that would affect on the accuracy of the result. So we need to count the sample as inappropriately stored sample. Number of sample lost or received. Sometimes we receive the request in the laboratory without any samples, or we receive the sample without request. This is accounted as an appropriate sample, and there is a pre-analytical error for storage and transporting the sample. Suitability of the samples also, it should be counted as all the samples. It has inadequate sample of anticoagulant ratio. The volume of the sample itself, when it is over than the ratio of anticoagulant in the tube, if it is or less, that will affect on the accuracy of result. The number of sample is hemolyzed as well, or lipemic sample, or in the biochemistry as well. The colored sample, which is becoming due to increase in cholesterol, all these, it should be counted as an appropriate sample or an unsuitable sample. Number of samples also collected, especially for analysis in biochemistry and hematology. Number of lipemic, an acceptable sample for microbiology, and the number of contaminated blood culture. All these, we need to count them to finalize or sort the source of issue pre-analysis. So from all of these standards and the frequently issues we face it as a laboratory specialist, or experts in working in clinical laboratory. The quality management system, it should be maintained, which is include a quality management policy. Each lab, they should create their own management policy to track all these issues, to track this issue periodically. We don't have to have weekly and monthly the same error from the same source, and we keep it as just register the numbers without sorting this issue. Whenever we receive the same issue, we need to track the source of the error, and in each hospital there should be a quality department to deal with this an issue and sort it out. The quality team should ensure both staff competency and assay quality. They competent to this test. They are well trained as well, and they know there is a specific guideline for them to perform this analysis. KPIs should record how errors. It should be include the mistakes, deviation from the procedure, accidents, and any other incidents, whether or not they affect the patient or staff. The laboratory also should provide the staff education into why sample quality is important. If we have a new instrument, a new kit, a new procedure or protocol to work on the lab, the lab supervisor, he need to provide educational session for the laboratory staff to ensure they are qualified and to perform this test, and that will save the time. That will also save the samples. Patients will not waste it, and provide the appropriate test result in appropriate time to diagnose the disease of the patient. Also, the quality team should have a mechanism to feedback any quality issue to ensure the change is understood and implemented. Whenever we raise the issue in the quality team, we need to back and to see what happened as a consequences when we raise this issue. Is it sorted out or still? And we need, as a lab, to complete follow up the issue. We need to provide the indicators pre and post the issue to confirm it is sorted out or still it is remaining. So the summary, any error in any step of pre-analytical phase can adversely affect both the quality of analytical error, analytical results, and the interpretation of information provided. Continuous monitoring of laboratory performance is a key activity for identifying errors and fostering the further improvement in laboratory medicine. Thank you for your attention. This is the last, and welcome for any questions from you. Question later? Okay, thank you so much for your attention.
شكرا جزيلا الدكتورة سحر الدوسري. أيها السيدات والسادة، ننتقل معكم الآن إلى المحاضرة الثانية لهذا اليوم بعنوان Concept of Medical Ethics and its Application in Laboratory Medicine, will be delivered by a consultant in family medicine and a professor of family medicine at King Saud University. Please welcome Professor Mohammed bin Uthman al-Rakban to deliver his speech.
Okay, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Okay, good morning everybody. It is my pleasure to be with you in this great conference. I'd like first to thank the organizing and scientific committee who gave me this opportunity to be with you talking about concepts related to ethics. شكرا يا دكتور. Actually, this is one of my areas of interest, talking about ethics in medical practice as in general. And when they asked me to participate in this conference, I thought an area related to ethics should be raised somewhere within this program. And I'm happy to be with after Sahar, her presentation. I will not be at the same level of her presentation from scientific point of view and from attraction of her slides, but at least she give me room to talk about issues related to ethics, especially when she talk about medical errors, quality improvement, things related of malpractice, and that all interrelated between quality and ethics. So what I would like to do this morning, I'll try to give an overview about some basics of ethics and how we could use these basics in our practice, how to make our practice better with quality as well as ethical issues. Very basics, very simple things related to ethics will be presented today because I'm expecting you to be messengers for this view. So in this short presentation, I'll talk about what is the differences between ethics, laws, morals, and these different words and how it is interrelated to each other, which one of them usually we are using in our medical context in laboratory medicine. I'll talk also about the basics of ethical principles, the 4 or the 6 ethical principles usually we are applying in medical profession. And again, I also try to give hint and maybe message to the society about the importance of having the ethical code of conduct for our practice. So, simply, what is ethics? What is ethics? Do we have any microphone that we can use for audience? What is ethics? What's ethics mean to you? If that's possible. Principles that you develop by yourself or believe it by yourself and try to apply it. Yes. Yeah. Ethics is something guide our values, guide our practice. It's something that شكرا لكم معلش هنتعبكم اليوم في الinteraction if somebody wants to talk. Ethics simply it is a moral principles that guide us to work in appropriate way, to do some limitation of our feelings, of our actions, controlling of our action through some guidelines, standards, as well ethical principles. So it is affecting people's decisions and leading their lives. Ethics, زي values. It's like values. Values controlling your life. What is your values? I'm committed. This is one of my values. I'm excellence in my practice. This is one of your values. That will control your commitment, punctuality. All these, we call it values. It guides us in our life. So when we talk about ethics and morality, we are almost talking about one thing. But morality is used usually by social terms. It's used in a public words. While ethics usually used in professional institutes and professional environment. So usually when we talk about a professional practice, we talk about ethics. When we talk about public and population-based practice, we talk about morals. But philosophically, they are all almost the same, have the same meaning. Now, what is ethics and law? What is ethics and law? Yes, والله ما شاء الله الدكتورة هنا كسرت الجو كله. Yeah, can you hear from you please? دكتورة حنتعبك معانا معليش والله.
شكرا. Ethics, it's rules from yourself.
Yes.
Laws, it's external rules that you have to follow.
Usually by
laws you must follow even if you like it or you don't like it.
Okay, excellent.
Ethics, something you like it and from yourself.
Ethics usually something you believe in it.
Yes.
Something you want to do by yourself. There is some roots that guide you to do these things. While laws, it is something you need to do it. It is organization by the government, by society, by whoever. usually laws by governments or by institutes. The institute would have standards and laws. But most of the laws based on ethics, But whenever you say, what is your ethics in this aspect, that's what you believe, what you yourself push you to do and help you to do. So when you talk about ethics and medicine, then it is an applicable way. Ethics, applying ethics in medical context, it is medical ethics. In laboratory medicine, it is laboratory medical ethics, and so on. Biomedical ethics, biological ethics, this is all the application of ethics, and so on. You can apply it in all other specialties and in all other disciplines. And from that side, they developed something called clinical ethics, more specific in medicine. Clinical ethics, something related to patients, direct relation to patients. And laboratories people as well as other professionals, they are dealing with patients. That's why they need to know what is the ethics, the clinical ethics. Clinical ethics like truth-telling, informed consent, end-of-life care, palliative care, physician or practitioner-patient relationship, honesty, integrity, all of these aspects is considered as a clinical ethics. In contrast, we have something called laboratory ethics, what we will talk about more in this presentation. I would like to hear your participation in these issues. So lastly, from the introductory part, what is ethical dilemma then? We know what is ethics, what is moral, what is the law, differences between them. We talk little about the medical and clinical ethics, and we'll come to talk about laboratories ethics. Now, what is ethical dilemma then? Anybody can say, what is ethical dilemma? Dilemma mean what? Dilemma mean what? Challenge, difficulty. When you have something, two important values counteract in that problem. To do or not to do, to tell or not to tell. And that both of these two decisions have right. But whenever you want to take a decision in between, no clear consensus. And for example, telling the truth for a patient, it is acceptable by everybody. But if you have a patient whose the truth may harm them or affecting their life, do you want to tell or not to tell? This is an ethical dilemma. You balance between different ethical principles, what we'll talk soon, inshallah. Ethical principles and how that ethical principles will guide us to take the right decision in ethical dilemma. So ethical dilemma, it is a conflict between moral obligation, I need to do that, this is right, this is wrong, and a situation that need to apply balance between different ethical principles. This is simply what we call it about ethical dilemma. So now moving one step forward, this is an example of regulation. If anybody interested to know more about medical ethics and laboratory ethics, please take a picture of this screen. It will summarize the most popular ethical references in the world. This is a group of ethical concepts where people usually will take most of their rules from these references. These references is the core references of ethical and medical practice. You can find most of the ethical application based on these references. The Declaration of Helsinki, one of the famous ethical guide in the worldwide. Belmont report is also an important report. This is very lengthy, by the way, very lengthy references. But if you are interested to know more about ethics, this is the references of some ethical guidance. So based on that, I just want to highlight on the important 4 to 6 ethical principles will lead us to take a decision on the situations, any ethical dilemma. If you face any ethical dilemma, this is a 6th principle. What I want to request from you, please, think with me, because I'm not a laboratory specialist. From each one of these principles, what is the applicable situation or applicable example in your specialty? If I said this is one principle is 1, 2, 3, how can that apply? What issues, situation, cases you can face in your specialty? So I will go through them one by one and ask you, which cases is related to that principle. Or you can tell me a case and you tell me that case related to that principle of this 6 principles. تمام؟ اتفقنا? So I will go through the 6 principles and ask you to tell me stories or cases related to these principles. These 6 principles in your application. There is four principles accepted by all specialists in ethics, which is, one of them is the patient autonomy. You need to respect patient autonomy, patient decision. Patient has the right to accept or to reject. And this is one of the basics acceptable worldwide patient ethical principle. Second, not to harm patients. Do things not to harm people. And that we'll go through it quickly now. The third one, the duty is to improve the welfare of your patients, improve the service, give benefits to others. The fourth thing is the justice between all the targeted or beneficiaries. Justice between all the beneficiaries. This is the 4 main ethical principles. But in some resources, they add to it 2 more. This is the one I talked already about, sorry. I think to go back, yes. Again, if you are interested in ethics, you can take a picture of this slide. This is the 6 basics principle of medical ethics. Very simple, and very, very important to help you to talk about and to deal with different ethical issues. One of them is the non-maleficence. What does that mean? That don't harm your patient. Should take care of your patient, non-harming them. It's one of the basic principles, not to do bad for others. Whenever you want to take a decision, is that affecting my society or not? Second one is the beneficence. This is the second one, not the first one. Whenever I take a decision or doing a practice, I need to know to what extent this practice will benefit others. I need to work to benefit, to cure people, to help people to pass their critical stages. And this is another ethical principle in medical practice. The third thing is to principle of autonomy. What is principle of autonomy? Respect people willingness, people beliefs, people decision, people personalities. This is their life. This is their body. They have the right to take a decision about their own things. Veracity means trust, truth-telling. Be trustable for your patients and respect their opinion. And that mixed with the autonomy. That's why some people, they did not consider veracity as a single ethical principle. They just put it part of autonomy. Now, the next one is the confidentiality. Respect confidentiality in the work. And it's very important that they take care of the confidentiality of data, confidentiality of the privacy of your patient, and their private and confidential issues related to their life and cases. And the last one we talked about it already is the justice between different beneficiaries in the healthcare. Now I'll just talk briefly about them. I already spoke about these 6 principles, and I just want you to help me to give me examples of application of this type of this principle. The non-maleficence principle of ethics mean I need to do my best not to harm myself, not to harm my patient, not to harm my institute. So one of the commitment of health professionals is to keep things on a safe side. في القواعد الفقهية عند الفقهاء يقولوا جلب المصالح دفع المفاسد مقدم على جلب المصالح. You may not get benefit, which is the next, but it's not more important not to harm anybody, not to harm the institute, not to harm the community. This is one of the ethical principles in the medical context and practice. Think about situation Think about a situation in your application that could be block this type of, or this part of the ethical principle. Next one is to help others. Beneficial, they call it the principle of beneficials. That means doing good for others, doing good for my colleagues, doing good for my institutes, helping my community. Doing good, it's good ethical principle. But again, the doing bad for the community and for others is more important principle, not to do that. Both of them is important, but they differentiate between two principles because sometimes things have a value which harm or may benefit. Now this is the ethical dilemma, compare between the benefits and the harm and what to do. For example, if you want to do a procedure for a patient, this procedure may lead to some complication. And that procedure at the same time will benefit. Then you balance between these two. If that issue is an ethical issue, this we call it ethical dilemma. Ethical dilemma, what to do with these in this situation. So, in summary, a patient welfare should be the first thing to be considered. Patient welfare to be the first thing to be considered. So the first principle is not to harm. The second one is to get benefit and to good for myself, for my colleagues, for my institute, for my patients, and so on. So the third one is the autonomy. Everybody in institute, every institute in the world, every patient in the hospital have an autonomy to write, to accept, and to reject, to agree or to disagree, especially with patients. The data you have in the laboratory, it is patient right. That's why people here is talking more about consents, an issue of consents. Don't use my data, don't use my tissue, don't use my body in something that I don't agree. This is an ethical issue. And its application, I'm sure it is very common in our practice in all fields of medicine. So here, patients have the right to refuse to use their data, to have the right to refuse or accept to use their tissue, have the right to accept or to reject to do a procedure, and so on. So, the next one is the veracity. What is veracity? Be fair and trustable to your patient. Telling the truth, telling the patient the things right. Be integral, honest, honesty disclosed. If something happened which it is not under your control, disclose it. Telling the truth. If you use the data from sources, disclose it. Declare the other effort of others. Others should also keep the others right. Keep the others right. Keep their effort and refer to it. And many issues related to this, like plagiarism, for example. This will affect this type of principle. So disclose the right of others, telling the truth, another important ethical principle. Next one is the confidentiality. This confidentiality is a wide spectrum of issues related in medicine. Part of confidentiality is the data confidentiality, cases confidentiality, privacy of patient part of confidentiality, and so on. So, do we have any application of confidentiality in laboratory practice? Do we need to keep things secret whenever it is confidential? Confidentiality is not only by patient, it's also institutional confidentiality. If there is an agreement in institution about something, it's unethical to disclose this, to spread this message to others, especially those who's competed people. You need to keep the confidential data and confidential issues to the level of acceptance. It is more of legal issue. Whenever the confidentiality is breaking, it is an illegal issue. Now, next one is what? Is the justice. The sixth principle of ethics in medical practice is the justice. What justice mean? Treat people equally. All of them have the right to have all the services, all benefits.
justice with the institutes, with the community, with the practice. Everything should be treated equally based on the recommendation and the standards, and especially with patients. Nobody superior to other except based on the standards. Justice. Everybody have the right to have their services provided for them. So at this moment, can we take the microphone please؟ معلش أنا والله ما ودي أزعجك يا دكتورة، صراحة عزيز علي لو في شباب كذا يعني، وأنت شباب يعني بس يعني. Anybody want? Now I'd like you to participate with me. Give me an examples of any issue or case or situation applied in laboratory medicine to break one of these principles or affected by one of these principles. Any example, please? Any example? Can you have دكتورة والله إنك يا دكتور رائد إذا عندك جائزة ولا شيء نبغى نوزعها بالله تأخذ الجائزة. عندك جوائز يا رائد؟ خلاص يلا اللي حيفوز اليوم حيعطينا اكزامبل، الدكتور رائد حيعطيه جائزة. ايش هو؟ شنطة. يا سلام، يلا يا دكتور الحمد لله. بس شنطة ايش هي؟ ديور ولا ها؟ يا سلام يا سلام. تفضلي دكتورة، اعطينا examples of some ethical issues related to laboratory medicine. It could break one of these issues. الصوت مو واضح. الصوت مو واضح، ما في صوت. Is it open يا جماعة؟ Is it open؟ خذي أعطيني هذا نشوف نحاول.
I will give two examples. One of it's the diagnosis, like we are releasing in the medical labs result for the most important patient in the hospital, which is cancer patient.
Yes.
Yes, we have to be very reliable and very assured that our results are correct, because the morale of those patients, if I give them wrong result about their tissue in regard to cancer, malignant or benign. This is for me, it's one of the ethical things that we should.
Excellent. And that related to which one of that principle?
The first one, not harming the patient.
Not harming the patient, or yes. I can also to add to what you, maybe it is more toward the veracity, telling the truth, doing the right. Okay, very good. Another
Second
example
thing is the satisfaction survey. Sometimes feedback of our clients, employees, patients, whoever, physician, taken into consideration in order to satisfy them. This is kind of maybe justice, or let's say
you take survey from everybody. Sample.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to give them the right to tell.
What is the ethical issue there? It's more of quality. This is quality.
This is I'm listening to them. I am listening to their concerns.
Okay.
To improve my.
Give them the right. Mention autonomy.
Yes,
then
right.
you are talking about autonomy.
The second one.
This one, autonomy.
Third one, yes.
We respect their opinion.
Exactly.
I want to hear their voice. I will reply to their recommendation. This is give them autonomy. Very good.
Yes.
Any other example? دكتورة هنا الآن استحقت الجائزة الأولى. هاي دكتور رائد ولم دراهمك ها. Any other examples? زميلات الكلمات، الزملاء الكرام. Anybody want to hear? Maybe here دكتور الله لا يهينك. شكرا. Give us some examples of some ethical issues in laboratory medicine.
Yes.
We could apply some of these principles.
Okay. Good morning. I am Falah Roueli from Ministry of Health.
أهلا وسهلا.
Medical lab student master. In laboratory, I want to talk about ethical issue such as infection disease or
infection,
results
yes.
of infection disease such as hepatitis B or C.
Excellent.
Or HIV.
Excellent.
Sometime people ask about name of patient or ID of patient. This is security information.
This is also a confidentiality, you mean?
Yes.
You are talking about the confidentiality. I think the issue you mentioned, Doctor, about the things related to contamination or infection diseases.
Yes.
It could come here under the confidentiality, because this is, you cannot disclose the diagnosis of a patient, especially a sensitive diagnosis.
We need confirmation test after this final diagnosis, this is information very specialist for patient,
Very
very
good.
security.
Very good.
And in COVID-19 period, some people ask laboratory specialists about pupil or ID number. What's the about?
They want to know more about the
what's the
privacy.
about X positive or negative?
Yes, yes. You don't have the right to disclose these things to those who's not concerned. صح?
صح.
Very good point. Thank you, Doctor. Well done. Can you take one more participation here? Yeah, just pass it. استريح يا دكتور الله يعطيك العافية. Just pass the microphone. Let us take one more example about what ethical issues that we could face in laboratory medicine.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, just can we go back to the four principles so I can give an example on each?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Very good.
Okay.
This one. This is the six principles, list of principles.
Okay. Yes, okay. So the principle of non-maleficence.
Yeah, malfeasance.
So we should do not harm the patient. I would give an
Correct.
example in transfusion medicine.
Yes.
Where we should only give blood or blood products to patients who really need them. So there are some indications for giving red blood cells for
Excellent.
patients who should have a certain level of hemoglobin,
Excellent.
of anemia.
Excellent.
We would not give it to a patient who has iron deficiency anemia.
Yes.
So this is one example.
Excellent.
Okay, and also I would give an example about patient privacy when you collect information before blood transfusion.
Yeah.
This should be collected in a private, separate room in the blood bank.
And this part of the confidentiality,
It is
maybe.
of the confidentiality.
Yes, thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good examples, yes. Always when you are dealing with things may harm practitioners or harm patients, then it is more of the principle number one. So thank you so much for those who participated. I don't know where is the Dr. Raed who will distribute الجوائز. والله راحت عليكم أجل. هو انحاش من الآن يعني. لكن أعتقد عنده توك هو بعد شوية. أيوة. Okay, now let me ask you a question. Don't you think that in institutes or the governments should have something to regulate these things, not keeping people to practice based on their beliefs and their morals? We need to have some sort of laws or what we call the regulation that can control the ethical issues of practice. What do we call it? What do we call that rule? Any idea? What we call that regulation that control the ethical principles of the practice? Yes. ها؟ هاي اللي غششك الآن. Yeah.
Ethical committee or
ethical committees usually will produce something we call it code of conduct.
Or also
Code of conduct. And this is one of maybe my recommendation to the society, laboratory society. I don't know if they have it or not. These conduct usually produced by scientific societies or otherwise by the governments. In our government, we have ethical practice to control medical practice. They call it a code of conduct in medical practice. But there is some specific application of these conduct need to be applied for laboratory medicine. Before we just talk brief about these conduct, this is some examples I could anticipate with ethical issues in laboratory medicine. Things related, I found in literature, and I hear it from Sahar just now, medical errors. Doing errors in the lab is a critical ethical issue because it will affect patients, affect their life, will make harm for them. And this is one of the principles of ethics. One of them is utilizing of biological material. It's also another ethical issue. It needs consent, it needs management well. The patient have autonomy and the right not to use their tissues in a way that they don't agree or they don't try to do it, they don't believe to be important. Autopsy practice. This is also another ethical issue in laboratory medicine. And we have some more example which is more of interrelated and actor. So for the sake of the time, I don't think I have enough time to go through all what we expect to do, but at least I recommend that people to have some code of conduct. This code of conduct will give the details, what to do and what not to do in the application. For example, laboratory medicine, what things accepted, what things not accepted. One of the famous, I found it in the literature, you can go through it, and again you can take picture of it, because I found it one of the references to control the laboratory medicine ethical issues is what we call it International Federation of Biomedical Laboratories. I don't know you know them or not, but because I'm not in a specialty, I just make search of that. I found it very useful. It is a society with many countries participate in this code of conduct, and they put very nice code of conduct. I may recommend for this the community, Dr. Abdurrahman and Shabab, and to work on some local, national code of conduct to control the ethical aspects in laboratory medicine. To best of my knowledge, please correct me, we don't have a detailed code of conduct for laboratory application in our country. I think it's very important. And I can call Dr. Abdul Aziz and others to make it one of the recommendations. And why don't we have a code of conduct for ethical practice? So this is some examples of code of conduct that they already admit in their reports. One of them, for example, they dedicated to use, this is biomedicine, all the laboratory scientists shall dedicate to use the clinical laboratory sciences to benefit mankind. This is very basic, very simple, with the first principle of the actively seeking to establish cooperation and specific working interrelation of the professionals is also a very important aspect in an ethical context. Provide an expertise to advise, counseling other health professionals, help others how to make others better. It's also another code, another line of ethical issues that will improve the ethical practice. Maintain confidentiality, another important aspect. I don't want to go through it because I know I proceed my time, but they talk about the privacy, the dignity, the legality, the quality, خلي الدكتورة سحر تنبسط, the quality of work, the integrity of clinical laboratory services. They talk about different issues. Please go through it if you are interested in that. And I'll at a dream to have maybe in our next conference somebody to present our local code of conduct and ethics, and we will be happy to participate with that. Thank you so much.
نشكر البروفيسور محمد الركبان على المحاضرة الرائعة. أيها الحضور الكريم، محاضرتنا الثالثة لهذا اليوم بعنوان Method Validation Part 1 Precision and Linearity, which will be delivered by Director of Total Quality Management Department at Public Health Laboratories. Please welcome Dr. Siham Yaqub al-Zaid.
السلام عليكم جميعا، صباح الخير. يسعدني أول شيء وأشكر المنظمين أعطائي هذه الفرصة الجميلة إنه to pass experience and knowledge. Why I choose method validation as part 1 and part 2 with my colleague Mr. Khan, because during my journey in working as a lab specialist until I became a quality management specialist also, I found that there is a lot of confusion, lack of knowledge, and misunderstanding in performing method validation in a clinical lab, specifically for a quantitative test. If my voice is low, just let me know, please. So shall we start the presentation, please? So, oh, sorry. I prefer to start from Holy Quran. This statement: يرفع الله الذين آمنوا منكم الذين أوتوا العلم درجات والله بما تعملون خبير. This is like encouraging or respecting to people who are seeking always knowledge and increase their experience. As you know, when to do method validation, in clinical labs, every time you purchase analyzer, critical analyzers like those, we have to do 4 qualifications. Who are participating in accreditations, they know those qualifications are a must to be performed, specifically selection qualification, installation qualifications, operational. Performance qualifications is our scope of talk here, which is method validation. This is after we install the, after installation and get the analyzer operated well, then we have to do method validation to make accurate or to make sure our results are accurate. Why these evaluations protocol important in our lab? To provide clear and thorough guidance for us as people working in the lab. We have to have a guidance. What is our accuracy limit, our precision limit, and linearity limit as well? All this has to be as a guidance for us, ensuring consistency with good lab practices as well, and comply with the law and accreditation requirements. We have to know in the beginning what is the difference between validation and verification. Validation is if I want to adapt or develop a new methodology, not developed or not provided by commercial or market, or if I have a kit or a reagent, I would like to modify it, change the cutoff values, for example, change the reference range, change the measurement unit. I have to do a validation. Verification is our talk. What is our main talk today is to verify the company who did the validation in the beginning. We have to verify their claims. So every time during my talk, if I said a manufacturer claim, that means what company did in their company about precision, for example, and what did I do as a verification to their claim. This is, I have a screenshot of from College of American Pathologists, one of the accreditation agency. This is a good maybe diagram or flow chart of the methodology. In the beginning, if I want to start and implement a new test or a new analyzer, whatever, I have to check out, is this analyzer or is this reagent is FDA approved or CE approved, which is European approved. If it is yes, then I have to perform my check out the claims of the company and do my verification. If this kit or analyzer is not approved or modified, I will go to proceed with the validation flow. So these are in squares, in the green square, these are the verification requirements, and in the orange color, it's the validation requirements in the CAP checklist. You will find similar in Sibahi and in ISO, but in a different way. So let's start about precision. Precision, the definition is the closeness of agreement between indications or measurement quantity values obtained by replicate measurements on the same or similar objects under specific conditions. By the way, I'm gonna talk about those two, precision and linearity, in very simple way. I don't want to complicate it like in the literatures. So here, what is the precision? If you want to see this diagram, the second cycle there, I don't know if we have a pointer here. The second cycle there, this is highly precise. I am هنا هذا, yes, here in this one we are precise but not accurate. So this is I am giving same results but not necessarily to the target. This is the mean of precision. Maybe Mr. Khan later will give you the definition of the accuracy. He will talk about accuracy. Here I am precise I am having same readings and to the target. So this is a good diagram. I always remind myself with it. So why I know I need to do precision? Primarily to assess the consistency of the observed measurement in precision performance versus the established claims, which is the manufacturer claims. I have to verify there. I have to be my results similar to them. Second is the assess precision performance after corrective action if I have proficiency testing failure. Sometimes I need to do precision study, or after optimizing my study, I want to make my study on more population or whatever optimization I do, or expand my methodology. As part of instrument troubleshooting efforts, sometimes if I have troubleshooting, I have problem with my instrument, I have to verify after fixing this problem to verify my precision as well. Always after introducing a new test or methodology or kit, after major maintenance, sometimes after BBM or after major maintenance, changing major parts in the analyzer, or relocation of the instrument. Here, the third one, always the lab, they overlook at it. They don't do it. They don't consider that if I move my instrument, I have to revalidate. Yes, you have to revalidate because some analyzers, they need readjustment, realignment after installation. Precision study types, we have 3 types of a precision. The third one is just recently in the literature, but we will talk about the first and the second one. So the first one is repeatability, and we call it in the lab within day precision. That means I'm running my samples, same sample on the same analyzer. If you see here, sorry, go back. Yes. Here, I'm doing on the same sample, using same measurement procedure, same operator technologist, same measurement system, which is the analyzer, and operating conditions, which is the room, the temperature, and the humidity. All these are the same. We call it within day. Intermediate precision, which is between days precision, or some people call it within lab precision, in one lab but between days. And this is a closeness of the result obtained within a single lab over a longer period of time. This is take short time, maybe 1 day from you. This is long period of time, maybe it takes 5 days, 20 days, whatever time you need. Reproducibility, this is a new coming with the, I was interested in this. Reproducibility between labs precision, that means I'm running the same sample between labs, not in one lab. So this is not everyone should do it, not everyone, it's not a must, but this is new in a method validation concept. So the study design, what kind of samples, always, this is the question, what kind of sample I should use if I don't have real patient. We can have pooled patient sample, spiked with the whatever we are looking at, spiked with the interested analyte, commercially controls or calibrators, or reference samples like proficiency testing or any other reference samples. The sample, what is the characteristics of the sample? It should be homogeneous, high stability, because if I'm doing over a big period of time, I need time for stability. Different concentrations, of course, at least 2 levels with 2 different concentrations, at least preferably within or beside the clinical decision points. For example, if my reference range from 4 to 10 or 4 to 50, I need 1 level around 4, more than 4, but around it, and 1 level around 50. And how many replicants I should do? Minimum of 5 replicants per sample, per run or day. If it is within day, it is per run. If it is within lab, it will be per day. We will end up with 25 readings for each level or each sample. And of course, the sample matrix should be the same as our analyte. If I'm doing method validation for glucose in plasma or serum, I should use plasma or serum matrix.
Study process, simply, I should, the day that I'm going to do my method validation, I should prepare my instrument, calibrate, running quality control. If the control is okay, I will do my 25 readings. Then I will tabulate them in an Excel sheet, and I will show you in my next slide. Then I will calculate my imprecision estimate, the acceptable criteria. It's either by standard deviation or coefficient of variation. Some people call it relative standard deviation. And if my SD is more or less or equal to the standard deviation of the manufacturer, that means my precision is okay. Or I can choose the second option of acceptable criteria. If my CV is 5, 10, 15, maximum of 20%, and I will less than those, I will accept my precision, and we will come just in a minute. Then, if those are okay, my method is verified. The manufacturer claims being verified, and my study is acceptable for patient testing. As simple as this. Data evaluation, after I do my study, I have, as I mentioned, to estimate SD, which is my SD that I got. It should be less or equal to the manufacturer SD, or I can use the CV. CV here, it could be less than 5, 10, 15, 20. I'm always being asked about what is the acceptable CV here. It depends on the sample nature and sample concentration as agreed with the lab clinical scientist. Every lab must have a clinical scientist that because he is the one who's expert, and he will give you the guidance when to accept. So if you are running a very my recommendation always in my lab, I will go with 10 and 15. This is what is 5, 10, 15. It is the major or margin of error that I can perform in my lab. I don't want to make it very big and not to challenge myself with a very small margin. I always go with 10 and 15 to all methodology. But if you're running a very small amount or concentration in your lab, go with the 20. Give yourself error margin. Why? Because definitely those small concentration, you will have an error, because a lot of variations can interfere with sample processing. If I have a very high concentration, I'm learning, like for example for SCG, the pregnancy hormone, it could be in thousands. So I will use the 5%. Why? Because I know my analyzer is capable to read those quantities. So because of limit of sample size, the study results are subject to false passes and false failures. Bear in mind always, my sample size will affect my end result. If I run 20 readings, doesn't mean my study is passed correctly 100%. No, it's a confidence of 95% that I am correct, 5% that I might not be correct because of a lot of variations. And the most important thing is the sample size. As every time I use bigger sample size, that means my study is more precise, more reliable, and reflective. So this is the most important slide. After I finish my study and I got my results, my CD and SD and CV, I have 3 scenarios here. First scenario have 2 options. 1A, which is all result passed and consists with the manufacturer claim. This is passed, clearly passed. Okay. The second one is all result passed, but just barely consist with the manufacturer claim. That means I am about to be out, but I'm not out. This is what I'm going to do. I will show you in a minute what is the correct result for each scenario, or corrective action, I mean. The second scenario, most of the results passed, but some were failed and apparently not fully consistent with the manufacturer. All my readings are okay. only specific readings that are failed, then we will see what action we have to do. And the third one is several results, which is most of the results failed, and the study as a whole is non-consistent with the manufacturer claim, and we should reject. This is the failure. So what action to be done? In the first scenario, 1A, pass and accept, clear, خلاص. The second one, pass and accept, but you should, on your daily QC, you should monitor closely to ensure the precision is still consistent. Make sure that you are not out, because I know if I am barely out, that means my analyzer or my system will be out, or my QC will be out in any time or any day. So I have to closely monitor if I am running on the negative side or positive side. In the second scenario, here it is to the lab director decision to accept or to reject. If there is some outliers, he will review the result and will make his decision. If this changes or outliers are significantly important or will harm the patient, here we will come to the ethics, doctor. If this is significantly will harm the patient, he might not accept and ask to repeat the study. If it is far away or very rare to significantly harm the patient, so that means he will accept it most likely. So this is scenario 2 is to the lab scientist decision. Plus, what kind of test I'm doing? He might thinking, if I'm doing a very critical test, then I should repeat it. So if I am a lab director, I'm gonna repeat. So it's upon him. The third scenario, failed and reject immediately. And there is 2 corrective action to be conducted. Either troubleshoot, investigate what's going wrong and repeat the same samples, or take a larger sample size. Maybe your sample size is unfair to your methodology. Maybe your methodology is okay, but because I run 20, 15, or 10 samples, this is not a very reflective to my methodology. I need bigger size. So those are the actions needed. Here an example, quick example. It should be 20 readings minimum, but I put 10 because of the slideshow. Here I have my day 1, day 2, this is between lab. All these my readings. I have 3 samples with different concentrations, and I have my CV here. My acceptance CV is 10%, and mashallah, all my CV is below the 10%. This is passed, and this is the manufacturer SD for low and normal and high sample, and this is, you will find it in the kit insert or reagent insert. And also my SDs are lower than the manufacturer claim. If I have outliers, I will have those results. These are the 3 scenarios that I should. Sometimes we have to take out the outlier. Maybe here, outlier, random error, something happened. I take it out and I will have this CV here. My CV will be much better. See, it's so high, and this is 0.3 comparing with the low SD. So sometimes I have to omit, but you have to be careful. Don't delete outliers just to be in. The maximum delete for outliers are 1 to 2 samples only from your study. If you are running 20 or 25 replicates, I mean readings. Don't delete too many in order to be in. For example, I'm 25 readings, I'm deleting 10. No, this is not acceptable. You have a problem, you have to fix it. But if there is 1 or 2 outliers maximum, then you can delete or take it out. So this is good, and this is, we have to do the corrective actions that I just mentioned. Any question about precision? Maybe we'll later, صح? Question. Linearity. So am I on time? How many minutes left for me? 5? I'll be quickly. Definitions of the linearity. Linearity is the range or of my analyzer. It is the ability to provide results within a direct proportional linear of analyte in this test sample. while the AMR, always there is confusion between linearity and analytical measurement range. They are different. Analytical measurement range is the range that the instrument can read, the minimum and the maximum. More than this, we have to dilute. Reportable range is the reference range for the normal range for the patient, and the critical range is the critical for patient, range for patient. So purpose is to describe statistical process for the linearity. Objective is to have a method which is, if it is not linear, and the extent of the nonlinearity at that level, just to know where my analyzer is linear, up to which level is linear. This is the more objective we will end up with. How many days time frame? It will take only 1 day from you if you do it right. What the sample requirement, as I mentioned in the previous slide, those are for sample type. If you don't have patient enough, the recommended concentration, we need equal spaced intermediate concentrations. At least here, 5 to 7. Those 5 to 7 standards need to be equally intermediate concentrations, or it should be not equal, recommended to be equal. The sample matrix should be the same as the patient. So I have, if I'm doing verification, my maximum sample size is 5 to 7. If I'm doing validation, which is more critical, 7 to 11 concentrations. Sample type, 1, if I don't have sample, I can pool my sample by diluting my sample with another sample. This is one pool. Second pool, diluting my sample with a commercial or recommended diluent, water or any other manufacturer, commercial diluent. The last one is if I have enough controls or calibrators or reference material or linearity materials, those are the best to be used. If I have a pool sample, I have 2 protocols. The first protocol, if I want to dilute sample with sample, this is an excellent from CLSI guidelines. I can do this protocol, and this here, the dilution sample P1, P2, that means patient 1, patient 2, and then I this is my formula calculations after I get my result from the analyzer, and this is my measurement. It should be 1 and 2, the mean for each. Because in linearity, I took 2 readings with 1 mean for all. This is the first protocol. The second, this is an example of the first protocol. If I have these readings, this is my neat, my first sample B1, B2 will be 60 after I do this dilution, and the second one 80, 150, and so on. And these are my replicates, our mean of those in red. If I'm diluting my sample, patient sample, with a diluent, this is the dilution protocol here. This is my dilution protocol. This is the formula, and these are my, I run R1 and R2 for the linearity study, the protocol number 2, and this is an example of it here. These are my examples if I'm doing a serial dilution. So after I got my result, I do my calculations as I mentioned. So I got this, and we will go with the acceptance. This is my acceptance criteria. Some people with linearity, they go with total allowable error. This is okay, and this is the most good one to be used for linearity, but nobody can understand it. As I mentioned, I want to make it simple for you. These are enough for linearity study as an acceptable criteria. Here, R2 ideally should be 1, but its range from, it should be more or equal to the 0.95. Some labs, if they are very challenged with their concentrations, they use 0.90, but not less than this. If R squared is outside, then the corrective action is to examine the result for outliers or repeat your test. Second acceptance criteria is the slope, ideally to be 1 as well, and the range for acceptance is 0.9 to 1.1. And if the slope is outside, then you have to examine the result for highest standard. The highest standard always affect the slope. It will move the line. And last thing is the y-intercept, it should be 0 or close to 0, and this is the range. And if it is out, the y-intercept may be much higher with no clinical significance. If it is, as I mentioned, the clinical scientists would accept it. Remember, this is my last slide for all the people working in the lab or want to establish a lab. Remember, before you plan for analysis or sample in your lab, you should be aware of the essential details of the sample, like its homogeneity, physical state, availability as a quantity, and stability. It's also you have to remember the components to be detected and quantified, expected concentrations level that you want to measure, nature of the sample matrix. In other words, the nature of interferences that can be present, that can complicate the determination of required components, required degree of accuracy and precision, how many degree for accuracy and precision you want to be very accurate with your result. Appropriate analytical techniques for the analysis, material and apparatus to be used, availability of required resources in regards to consumables, manpower. Sometimes if you don't have manpower, validation will be delayed or not done. Cost of analysis, because validation is really cost effective. This is the end of my presentation. I hope you get used to it's useful for you. Thank you, and بعدين again. Thank you.
شكرا جزيلا للدكتورة سهام سيد. أيها السيدات والسادة، محاضرتنا التالية بعنوان Method Validation Part 2 Accuracy and Reference Interval, which will be delivered by an experienced professional at the Ministry of National Guard Health Affairs. Please welcome Mr. Abdul Rafiq Khan.
It's not moving. And this is the light, right?
Yeah, and this is
Thank you very much for the invitation to present the method validation part 2. And I really thankful to the whole organization committee who arranged this big event for the last 3 days. They are really, we should appreciate their work and their organization, the way they are proceeding and to finalize this one. I'm going to present the method validation part 2. Before I start, I will let you know that this is one of the very dry subject. Okay, the only people who are working in the lab, they will understand what I am talking about. But it's a very dry subject. By saying that it is a dry subject, but 80% of the people, of the population who are visiting to the hospital, they are sending their sample to the lab. So the backbone of the whole hospital is the laboratory. The poor and the miskin lab technician, the technologist, who are working behind this. And they are the one who are generating this number, and then based on this number, we are deciding that the patient have this disease or not, is a normal or is abnormal. So about 80% of the people who are sample coming to the lab. Therefore, this is a very important topic for the method validation to understand what it is. My objective for this one to understand where we are moving. When I have a sample, when I have a method, when I have an analyzer, then what next? And this applicable to the pharmaceutical, for the toxicological, for biological, for bioanalytical, for research, for oil and gas, for soil, all of them, for dope testing, all of them, they have the same protocol almost. Just something up and down, but basically all of them have the same protocol. So the thing that I'm going to talk about is the accuracy. So understanding the method accuracy validation. I will cover about like 6 parts into this one. What is the accuracy? Ms. Sehami already explained it to you. The accuracy means what? The accuracy means simply there are always 2 things, a real value and the value that you measured from your analyzer, right? So how close your measure value to the real value, to the standard value is we call accuracy. So how we establish that how much we are accurate to the real value. So always there are 2 values, is the real value, the actual value of the sample, and the one that you obtain in your lab. Regardless of the analyzer, regardless of the technique, is always like that. So how much we are close. So you can see in this one, the middle circle, yellow circle is the most accurate one. Here we have to be there. So if all of my 4 result within this yellow circle, then I must say that we are also accurate and the precise. The precision is already explained by Ms. Siam. So we are accurate means we are within this circle. So if we are around the circle, still we will say is accurate. But anything beyond the circle and out of the circle is not accurate. Same thing here, you can see that this one is the reference value, the standard value, the normal value, and this is my measured value. So how much difference between the 2, this is we call accuracy. Now, how to perform the method accuracy validation? There are 5 things, there are 5 different ways that the people can use in the lab. The comparison with the definitive method, the reference method, the comparison with the routine method. The third one is the most commonly used in most of the clinical laboratory. The fourth one, analyzing the standard reference material, which is available from the NIST. You can purchase material with the certificate of analysis, and then you spike this material in your pool sample and analyze this one. The last one is by the recovery experiment. This is the most common for chromatographic method, for mass spectrometry, for HPLC, for electrochemical detection, for fluorescent detection, for all of them. Mostly common, this type of techniques, and also in all of the pharmaceutical industries. For serum, for suspension, for capsule, for tablet, this is the last method that's most commonly used in the pharmaceutical industry for the validation or for the accuracy. So the definitive method is the method which is measuring the absolute quantity. What does it mean by the absolute quantity? The quantity which is itself not depending on anything. And there is only one thing, which is the mass. The mass of the analyte, the weight of the analyte, the molecular mass of the analyte, or either if it is an atom or is an element, then in that case we say the atomic mass of the analyte. So this is the only absolute thing that we can measure. The rest, all of the things are not absolute. All physical quantity, the volume, the absorbance, the weight, and all of them are not absolute. So the definitive method is a method which is normally using isotope dilution mass spectrometry. The second one is the reference method, which has the less quality than the definitive method. Normally the RIA, UV, and the most commonly used method for any particular analyte. The routine method, this is what we are using mostly in most of the lab, which is the method we use in core chemistry, serology, hematology, and all of them, where we are just comparing our result with the other lab, or the lab within the city, or the lab internationally, whatever they are most commonly used. The fifth one, the reference material, which is available from the NIST. You can go and Google it, the NIST page, and then you will, whatever you are looking for, it will be, there is a huge list of the reference material you can purchase, bring it to the lab and analyze and see how accurate your result is. The last one is the recovery experiment. The guideline which covering the recovery experiment is only one, which is the FDA guideline. So you have to Google it, the FDA method validation guideline, and the all detail, there are like about 40 pages guideline will appear. So let's see when the accuracy validation or comparison is required, when we should do it. This is the most important question. I write down many things here, but just very simple. When you are starting the test, this is before the test. When you are moving the analyzer from one place to another place, one lab to another lab, when you do the major maintenance, everything is open, the motor, the sensor, everything has been changed, the detector and other things changed, means after the major maintenance. These are the most commonly requirement, but there are a lot of lists. If your calibration continue to fail, if your quality control continue to fail, then you have to go and check the comparison. Then you have to go and do the method accuracy validation. And there are so many other things. The most important thing, which is the most common error that I have seen so far, I have seen almost like 500 different method validation from different lab, from my lab, from other lab. The most common problem is the problem of the sample size. The most common problem is the sample. The people collect all the sample normal, or they collect the sample on the one range. It's not going to work. Always there should be three range of the sample must be included to pass the method accuracy validation, to pass the comparison validation. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So what it is, you have to have a low sample, you have to have a medium sample, you have to have a high sample. These three range of sample must be included. If you have a 2, you always have you see that you have a good correlation, but it's not going to work. If you have 1, definitely it's not going to work. So always, the most common mistake in method comparison validation is this one, the sample. And when I ask, okay, why we don't have a low sample? They said, we don't have a sample. Or why you have a high sample? Why you don't have a high sample? Or 3 range of a sample? They said, we don't have a sample. There is a way to make the sample. You spike the QC, you spike the calibration. You have a normal sample, you spike the high sample. But there is no way to escape out. There is no way. You have to do it. If it's not going to work, it's not going to pass. And let's see in the worst scenario, no, we don't have any sample. Then I will ask, okay, why you do the validation? Right? Why we are doing this one? When there is no patient sample, then stop it. If you have a 2 sample in 1 year, then send it out. Give it to the other lab to do it. There is no point to waste the money. There is no point to waste your time. There is no point to waste your labor. So these 3 source of sample must be there. These 3 range of sample must be there. The other thing, how many number of sample? The per guideline for CLSI, EP09A2IR, we should have a 40 sample. But most of the lab, they are using 20 sample, and they are going with this guideline that the 20 sample, we can do it. But let me tell you, if you go with the 20 sample with a proper range, it's more than enough. But as per guideline, it should be a 40 sample. Similarly, the number of days, the people run all the sample in 1 day. Or say, okay, our comparison is passed, everything is okay. No, you cannot run on minimum 3 to 4 to 5 days should be run. So if you have a 20 sample, run 4 days every day for 5 days. If you have a 40 sample, run 8 sample for 5 days. Why I'm saying this one? Because every day there will be new calibration, there will be maintenance, there will be quality control. So all these errors will add up in your final result. So if we do only in 1 day, only 1 day error will be there. And when you start the real patient sample, you have a problem, and then you don't know where to go. So always the comparison study must be done at least minimum 4 to 5 days with the 20 sample. So similarly, the duplicate run is preferred. If you can run in twice and both analyzer, that's enough. But if you can run only one, that's also acceptable. The sequence of the sample, normally the people run all of the sequence just one time. But if you are running in duplicate, you can run 1, 2, 3, and then 3, 4, 5 this way. So first you start from 1 to 5, then duplicate run 5 to 1. You can do this one. But if you are doing single, then this run is more than enough. Now, the most important one, okay, I have a new analyzer, I have a kit, I run the 20 sample, now what to do the next? The laboratory director and the laboratory technician and technologists, they must know what they are doing. Okay, this is I always forcing the people. Before you are doing the method validation, please read the package insert properly. What the manufacturer is telling you, why you are doing this one. We don't know and we completed the validation. But why we are doing, we don't know. Why I'm saying this one? Because if you don't know what we are doing, you will not be able to evaluate the result of validation. Either precision, either linearity, either all of them. All of them cannot have the same acceptable criteria. Troponin I is different. Potassium is different. Like the CBC is different. All of them have a different criteria, different chemistry, different requirement, different measuring process and procedure. So we should know before we start all this thing. Go through the literature, read it one by one, and collect the data and understand what we are doing. So let's see, we did the 20 sample. Now we have a data here. So what to do? Is this acceptable or is not acceptable? So for all of the method comparison validation, we must know one thing, which is in the first line, the total allowable error. If we do not know the total allowable error, we are wasting our time. There is no comparison validation can be done without the total allowable error. How much error we can accept. Where to get it? Go to the Google. The Google is the sheikh for everything. He will give you answer for everything. So go to the Google CAP website and write down total allowable error. There will be a huge list. Okay, in the list you find your analyte, you are lucky. If you didn't find it, then what to do? Then I will tell you what to do. There is a textbook of clinical chemistry. The total allowable error, if there is nothing in the literature, nothing you find in what to do, the 10 to 15% of your reference range. If your therapeutic range, your acceptable normal range, you can accept this one as a total allowable error. Once you have the total allowable error, then you enter the data here. Okay, then you enter the data here. You can see this is the HbA1c result from our two HPLC machine 1 and 2. This is the x-axis, Tosho 1, this is Tosho 2. Enter all of them. Once you enter in the Excel sheet, then visually check the result, how it looks like. They are close to each other or they have a difference. So this is the first thing we have to do. The second thing, then we have to put this one either in Excel sheet or EP Evaluator. EP Evaluator is one of the best the software for the evaluation, but if you don't have it, you can just do it simply with the Excel sheet. This is not something like a very huge calculation, very difficult calculation. No, you can do this one. The good thing with EP Evaluator, it is written there, the comparison is passed, so everybody is happy. But pass on the basis of what? On the basis of total allowable error. Once you have a total allowable error, then this next column, the minor index, the major index, minimum error and maximum error cannot be more than plus minus 1%. The minimum minus 1%, the maximum plus 1%. If these two parameters are passed, then you go to the third one, which is the correlation coefficient. Normally, as it was mentioned previously, the correlation coefficient is 0.95 or greater. But the correlation coefficient is not the indicator of good method comparison. It must be the minimum and maximum error index should be within the limit. -1 to +1. If it is out of the limit, the EP Evaluator will flag. And I have this Excel sheet. I am using the Excel sheet for my own lab. And my Excel sheet will flag. It will become red that there is something wrong. One of the data or two of the data is not working. So the Excel sheet will flag. Or EP Evaluator will say comparison is fail. The fail is because this error index. So the question is, what is this error index? From where I got it? Very simple. If you look at the data, this one, like the second data, 3.2, 3.4. 3.2 minus 3.4 divided by 3.2 multiplied by 100 divided by total allowable error. That's it. This is a simple calculation. So the minimum error and maximum error you can calculate by yourself. That's why I said you don't need to have an EP evaluator. You can do it in your lab by yourself. How to calculate this error? I will repeat again. This number, the two reading, the number 2, 3.2 and 3.4. 3.2 minus 3.4 divided by 3.2 multiplied by 100. One result comes divided by the total allowable error. So everything should be plus minus 1. And the last one is the R value. The R value should be greater than 0.95. Then you have done. The comparison is passed. So now let's see the next slide. Here is the next slide. Now you can see this is the validation of 17-hydroxyprogesterone in dry blood spot in my lab. So you can see the error index is minus 1.4 and 2.3. So where it comes is coming from there. You can see it is here, the error index. So anything greater than 1 plus minus, it will flag. So this comparison is not acceptable. And this error index will not be calculated if you don't have a total allowable error. So do not depend only the R value. The R value have no meaning if you are not calculating the allowable error. Now let's see the next slide. Here, I didn't put anything. There is no comparison. Just have a look at the R value. The R value is very good, 0.9999, right? It's very nice, R value, everything perfectly all right. It's running smooth now, we are okay. No, just have a look at the data. See, if you go from top to down, and here to there, you will see there is a constant difference of 10 units in most of the reading, right? So how we will catch it? If we are using R value, correlation coefficient for the acceptance of method comparison validation is not going to work. You have a constant error of almost like more than 20% in all of them. You can see this is 60, this is 70, this is 70, this is 80, this is 80, this is 90. I put it purposely. So you know that R value is not going to work. But you see the nice graph. You see everything in the straight line. You can see a nice graph. The R value is 0.99. You can see the slope is almost 1. But you can see the intercept is 9. Means every reading 9 units higher than the previous reading, than the actual reading. So the comparison is not acceptable. So the next very simple presentation is a reference interval validation. Anybody want to have the Excel sheet? You need more help, I can give the Excel sheet, you can use it. It's not rocket science, it's just very simple. You enter the data and you get the result. Now the reference interval validation. Why we need the reference interval? Any result reported without reference interval have no meaning. So the reference interval is required to make the diagnosis, to assess the physiological condition, manage the therapy, and then the most important one is the requirement from the regularity authority and the accreditation body. Like College of American Pathology, they're required. It has to be done. Also, in any of the country, the Sibahi, like here in Saudi Arabia, it is mandatory to report the result with the normal range. So as a lab, when we have the method, how I can validate what to do for the reference range, how I can establish, how we can do it. So there are 5 different procedures. Either you establish the population-based reference interval, which is we call RI, population-based, or transfer from the old method. There is a method already using in the lab. You purchase the new analyzer, new technology, but the principle is same. You do the comparison. If your comparison is good with a minimum bias, you can use the same reference range from the old method. The third one is multi-center study. The fourth one, use the literature, and then you verify. If you use the literature, then you have to verify your reference interval. And the fourth one, if you are using the manufacturer, then also you have to verify. So let's see what the CAP is saying. The CAP is saying that the reference interval must be established before you verify the result. If you are using one kit for serum, for whole blood, for urine, for CSF, for any biological sample, all of them should be validated separately. Linearity should be done separately. Comparison should be done separately. Reference interval should be done individually for each sample type, regardless of the kit and regardless of the analyzer. All of them has to be done. So there is no way to leave this one as it is. So now I will just explain two systems, where to do, how to do this one. The reference interval verification is one of the most easy procedure. You collect normal 20 sample. Okay, you can find this one in NCCLS guideline. This picture is from there. So you collect the normal 20 sample. And then you analyze these normal 20 sample. Then, once you have so when you do the normal 20 sample, there are 3 different possibilities. The first one, less than 2 sample are out, means the 18 are normal. If the 18 sample are normal, then the reference interval is verified. You got to go. If less than 5 sample are outside of the normal range, then you cannot use this. You cannot use this method. So what to do? You have to repeat and find out where is the reason. If 3 to 4 sample outside of the normal range, then collect another 20 sample and repeat the experiment. Again, out of 20, 2 samples can be out, but 18 must be in. So what is the bottom line? If you run 20 sample, 18 sample are in, the reference interval is verified. If more than 5 or 5 sample are out, the reference interval is not verified. So what to do? Then you collect 120 sample and establish your own reference interval, and then forget this one. So then in that case, we call it population-based reference interval. This is not the easy job. The most difficult job is to establish the reference interval based on the population. And these are 13 different requirements. You have to go to the literature search, then the reference population, then questionnaire. You distribute the questionnaire to the normal patient in your blood bank. Ask them they are smoking, not smoking, their age, male, female, fasting, non-fasting. All this information has to be collected. So it's a very thorough and very difficult study. That's why normally the people don't do this one. And after this one, this is the questionnaire form that we have it, and you can use this one form. But if you are doing this one, normally the people just verify the reference interval, which is the most easiest and straightforward job. The other thing, when you are verifying, or when you are establishing the reference range, for your own purpose, for your own lab, then we must have the criteria for the acceptance of the sample. Which sample I should include? Like, for example, the jaundice, the highly yellow color, lipemic, hemolyze sample, we should exclude all of them, because we don't know what effect will come. So we should have a completely, perfectly normal sample and exclude all of them. Then to verify, then to establish your reference value. After the sample criteria, where should I do? Most of the lab does not have EP evaluator, so where to do? So again, you go to the Google and Google it and write down reference value advisor. And then as soon as you accept this one and download, it will appear in your Excel sheet. And then in that Excel sheet, you put your data. And once you put the data, then everything will be automatically calculated. Here we did it in our lab. In my lab, we did for newborn screening, we almost analyzed, like you can see, the sample size, the count is almost 12,000 sample. So the whole year we collecting all the sample data. And once the Excel sheet is filled up, we copy paste to the reference value advisor, and the reference value, the cutoff value is automatically calculated. And then we compare it with the other parameter. We go with the confidence interval, we go with the other, the EP evaluator, just to find out that which value is more accurate, and then go to the literature survey. So as I said, it's a very thorough and most difficult study to be done in the lab if you are really doing this one. For your information, In the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, our lab, my lab, the National Guard lab is the only lab who has established the local reference interval for all newborn screening. And it is a data of 75,000 patient sample. 75,000 patient sample, and all of them established within the kingdom. The patient collected from here, and we keep collecting the sample from the last 5 years. And after the 5 years, then we send this data for the publication. You can Google it, put my name, and then do the reference value or cutoff value for newborn screening. The paper will automatically open. This was the largest study, almost 75,000 sample, and almost about like 36 analytes. So it's a huge study that we have done, which is locally published, all of them here in the kingdom. Here, this picture will appear. When you enter the data, then you can see this, the value, the reference value advisor will give you all the calculation, the acceptable range, and is giving you the red, that means this is out, and then 95% confidence interval, all this will appear with the time. Thank you very much, and the question will be later on, inshallah. If you need anything else, then let me know after this one. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Abdul Khan, for the impressive talk. أيها الحضور الكريم، محاضرتنا القادمة بعنوان Quality Control and Clinical Laboratories from A to Z, which will be delivered by Dr. Mu'in Hasib, the Chief Quality Officer, Director of Training and Development for Al Arab Medical Laboratories Group. Please welcome Dr. Mu'in Hasib.
There was one before me.
Yeah, I know, but they changed it.
How do you advance? You advance from this?
Yeah, it should be from here, and back from here, and this is the pointer. Right?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Morning. Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Today I'm going to talk to you about the quality control in clinical laboratories from A to Z. The learning outcomes for this presentation: what is a control? What is quality control? Why run controls? What is the difference between assayed and unassayed controls? In UQC lots, when you get to your lab, do you verify or establish, and how? When, how, and how often do you run QC, and by whom? QC error, random error, and systematic error. Then we'll talk about how to use Westgard rules to evaluate and identify QC problems. Then I will tell you about simple QC rules to follow in your laboratory. And then we'll talk about QC troubleshooting. And under that, we'll talk about reason why QC out of control and possible corrective action. And then lastly, we'll talk about QC do's and don'ts. What is a control? What is quality control? Well, the accreditation body programs require usually that you run the same sample. Okay, almost every day testing is done. This type of sample is called a control. QC in the medical laboratory is a statistical process used to monitor and evaluate the analytical process that produces patient results. Probably QC helps ensure that reported results of patient laboratory testing are correct and accurate. Why run controls? Well, there are three purposes of running the QC. First, to monitor and control the accuracy and precision of the complete analytical process when performing patient testing. Second, to detect immediate error that occur due to test system failure, adverse environment conditions, and to monitor over time the accuracy and precision of the test performance that may be influenced by changes in the test system performance and the environment, and also by the personnel. The bottom line, when we run a test, okay, can we accept this test result with certainty? Are the result of this procedure trustworthy? That's the question we need to ask. Next, we're going to talk about what is the difference between assayed and unassayed QC. Assayed controls, they come already from the manufacturer with ranges. Okay, they provide you with the ranges. The unassayed controls, which usually don't have nowadays, mostly we have assayed controls. So they are unknown. The company just provide you with the material, whether it's blood or serum or plasma, and then you need to establish the ranges for each analyte. So now we know the difference between assayed and unassayed QC. Assayed comes with ranges, unassayed don't come with ranges. Now, for a new QC lot, when you get a new QC lot, whether in hematology, chemistry, okay, do you verify or establish the ranges and how? And here I'm talking about quantitative analysis, not the qualitative, okay? Qualitative, that gives you positive, negative, you can use without any verification or anything. You just use it as is. I'm talking about quantitative material, okay? QC material. Now, in the CAP checklist, in chemistry 1400 says the control range establishment or verification says that you need to establish or verify the QC material that you get. And in order to do that, in order to comply with the standard, you need to have a procedure and you need to have record of control, validation, or verification of each lot. Similar requirements are found in other checklists, like in the urinalysis checklist, point of care, immunology, flow, and hematology. Now, to verify, and listen to me carefully, but this is going to save you tons of time, okay? To verify a QC range that come from assayed QC that comes with ranges, all you need to do is run the QC level once before you use it for patient testing, okay? Once. You compare it with the ranges that come with the QC. If you are within these ranges, you are considered verified. You just fill a form, which I will show you an example of it, okay, and then sign it, put a copy of the printout from the machine, a copy of the pamphlet that comes with the QC, and you're all set. You don't need to do anything else, okay? That's for assayed QC material. Now, and this is an example of a form that I use in my lab that we develop. You put the test, our result, okay? Your result, manufacturer ranges, acceptable, yes. And there is a statement that I put at the bottom here, that this QC lot is acceptable for patient, The technologist who run it will sign and date, and the supervisor will review and date. And again, you attach a copy of the printout from the machine, a copy of the pamphlet, and you file it under new QC lot verification. New QC lot verification, okay? For the establishment, when do you do establishment? If you got unassayed QC material or your verification failed. If your verification fails, means that your result did not fall within the manufacturer ranges, that means your QC verification failed, then you need to do the establishment. How do you do the establishment? The old-fashioned way. You run 10, 15, 20 times, then you calculate the means and the SDs, and then you calculate your range for 1 SD, 2 SD, and 3 SD. Okay? And this is an Excel sheet that you can use to calculate your ranges if you are establishing the QC range. As you can see, you can calculate the mean, 1 SD, 2 SD, and 3 SD. Next, we're going to talk about when and how often do you run QC and by whom, okay? Well, to run the QC, done daily if patient is testing is done, okay? Remember, all QC first, patient second. QC first, patient second, okay? And again, I'm talking about the daily testing that you do, the things that you run daily in your lab. I'm not talking about the batch testing, okay? How often you need to follow manufacturer's recommendation. If they tell you do once a day, then you do once a day. Okay, once every shift, then you do once every shift. Okay, and accreditation, body regulation and standard, good laboratory practice, or your laboratory policy. But your laboratory policy cannot be less stringent than the accreditation body or the manufacturer recommendation. By whom? Those who are involved in doing patient testing, they need to be involved in doing QC also. You cannot have just one individual running the QC and the rest of the staff running patients. They have to be involved in doing the QC also, okay? QC error. Next, we're going to talk about QC error. Faulty performance that cause error in test result fall into two large categories: random error and systematic error. There is more talk about this, but because of the time, I just make it short, okay? Random error only affect the precision. Random error only affect the precision, and it's difficult to eliminate because they are the result of random fluctuation in the measured signal due to noise and other factors. Systematic error result from source that can be traced to the methodology, the instrument, or the operator, and affect both the accuracy and the precision of the test. So, random error affect precision. Systematic error affect both accuracy and the precision. However, both type of errors must be recognized, investigated, and resolved for accurate and precise testing. Next, we're going to talk about how do you use Westgard rules to evaluate and identify QC problems. Okay? In 1981, Dr. James Westgard and his associate developed a multi-rule procedure for interpreting control data. The elements of the Westgard system are based on principle of statistical process control used in the industry nationwide since the 1950. Okay? There are 6 basic rules that the Westgard recommend or use. I'm going to tell you about the most popular of them. First one is what we call 1-3SD. Okay, first Westgard rule is 1-3SD. As you can see, we are out of 3SD. When we establish our mean, we have plus 1SD, 2SD, 3SD, and the same thing on the minus side. So if you are out of 2SD, or 3SD, sorry, then you must reject, run, and repeat. No question asked. Reject and repeat till you are within 2SD. Okay? And there is, in normal situation, there is about 1% of data that will be out of 3SD when you run your QC. Next rule is what we call is 1 to SD. Again, these rules for daily QC, not batch run, okay? Daily QC. Daily QC, if you are out of 1 to SD, you look at the previous shift or the previous day. If you are within 2 SD on that day or that shift, we call this warning, and you can report your patient, okay? And you can report your patient. So the first 1 to SD, if the previous was within 2 SD, is acceptable to report your patient result. Okay. Then we have the rule of 2 to SD. Now either my one control is out of 2 SD 2 consecutive times, or my both controls are out of 2 SD. Out of 2 SD. So, and this one I have, if I have this one or this situation, then I have to reject and repeat the QC till I am within 2 SD. Okay, I reject, then a corrective action is needed, and you cannot report patient result till the QC it is within the 2 SD. Okay. Next, I'm going to tell you about simple WSGAR rules to follow for a quantitative, again, daily QC. If you follow these rules, you will, 90% of the time, you should be okay with your QC. Okay? First, if you are within 2 SD, you are good to go. You can report your patient result. If you run your QC and you are out of 2 SD for the first time, 1 to SD, you look at the previous. If the previous was within 2 SD, you are good to go and report your patient result. If you are out of 2 SD for 2 consecutive times, you reject and repeat till you are within 2 SD. And if you are out of 1-3 SD, you reject and you repeat till you are within 2 SD. Now, for anything that is batch, the recommendation, batch means you run weekly, once a week, once a month, twice a month. We call that batch testing. Anything that you batch, the recommendation is to repeat the QC every time you are out of 1-2 SD, because you don't know what happened to your method or to your instrument while it was not in use. Okay. Next, QC troubleshooting. Obviously, if you work in the lab, you have noticed that the QC will be out of range sometimes. Okay. So once it happens, like I said, you need to correct the issue, and you need to have a corrective action actually written. You need to have a corrective action form and fill it also. So in this section, I will cover the reason why QC out of control and possible corrective action per my experience and by my research. So why would the QC be out? It could be QC material, QC too old, expired, out of date. Okay, it could be the reagent. You have a new lot number that was not calibrated. Calibration too old, okay, expired calibration. Human could be human tech, human error. They're not following the procedure. Okay, it could be also the analyzer. The maintenance is not done, or unexpected errors. So these are the reasons why the QC could be out. Next, possible corrective action. Every lab should have their own corrective action for the QC when it's out. Here I'm just giving you some recommendation that you might be using if you like. Okay. The thing is, you want to remember that when the QC is out of range, out of 2 SD or out of 1-3 SD, that you cannot report patient result till the QC is within 2 SD. That's the first thing, okay? So the first thing you want to do is you want to run the control from the same vial. You can run the control from the same vial, because it could be a random error. Now, if that does not work, okay, then open a new vial from the same control and run the QC again from a new vial. 3, check your calibration. Okay, reagent control, maybe the calibration is on the edge of its life. Maybe you need to recalibrate and run the QC. Check to see that the reagent you have on the reagent that you have on the machine is the correct lot number, for example. Okay? Verify that the recommended storage were followed. Yes, maybe the control bottle is full, but maybe somebody left it in room temperature for a long time. Then they put it in the refrigerator. And the last thing that you need to do, the fourth thing you need to do, review calibration of the test on the instrument. Okay. And the fifth one is to call the manufacturers if all failed. When in my previous life, when I was a technologist, when I used to call the manufacturer when I couldn't solve an issue, when I'm troubleshooting the instrument, they always have things that you don't have access to help you solve the issue. But this would be your last result. You should solve it on your own, and then you can call your technical specialist. Last thing we're going to talk about is the QC do's and don'ts, and we'll start with the don't. Don't recalculate control limit too often. It is best to recalculate the limit only following a known process change, like change of lot number. Do not assume perfect data. Like I said, about 4% of the data will be out of 2SD. Okay, 1% of the data will be out of 3SD. Do not assume perfect data. For daily QC, do not reject QC run if it is out of 2SD for the first time for daily QC, because you will be rejecting good QC. Okay. QC costs a lot of money. It costs tear and wear on your machine, and also if you are doing the process and reporting of your patient results, so you could have a delay in the turnaround time. Do not run QC more often than the manufacturer recommendation unless you have a reason for it. I've seen people when I do consultation and visit other labs, they run QC 3 times a day when it's only recommended once per day. Okay, why? You could save 2/3 of that. Okay. Do not let the QC material sit in room temperature for a long time. Follow manufacturer instruction or your lab policy. Do not buy too many different lots for the same QC. Try at least to buy for 1 year, because you don't need to verify or establish the lot that often. If you cannot do it, at least for 6 months. The minimum is 3 months. Not every month you get in a new lot where those who like to establish, then you are establishing every month, spending 15 days collecting data and stuff like that for QC establishment. Okay, try to get as many kits from the same lot for as many months as you can. Next, we're going to talk about the do's. Do run and record QC per lab policy or manufacturer recommendation. Do verify QC ranges. You don't need to establish anymore. Okay, you don't need to establish QC ranges anymore. Do the verification. Work smart, not hard. Work smart, not hard. Okay? If it's allowed per the regulation, then do it. Okay? Do standardized QC operation have a policy? Every lab should have their own QC in their quality management. They should have a quality QC program for the whole lab, and then maybe specialized lab should have their own QC policy to follow that talks about all these things: when to verify, when to establish, when to reject. Okay. Do not reject out of control, do reject out of control runs, identify the problem and eliminate the cause, and you need a corrective action. Do adopt a total QC strategy to minimize the cost effectiveness of the QC, and do review and date QC data at least monthly by the medical director or designee. Okay, who's considered a designee for the medical director? Who's considered a designee for the medical director of reviewing BERCAB, reviewing the QC maintenance? It is a supervisor or the senior can be delegated to do that, okay, by the medical director. If delegated in writing by the medical director, a supervisor or a senior can do that, okay? Or the section medical director can do that. But do it monthly. You don't need to do it daily. There are two kinds of review. One by the technologist who's running the QC, who need to verify daily that they are acceptable with the limit before reporting patient result. And there is a monthly review by the medical director or designee. Even if you like as a supervisor or a section head to review daily, don't put it in writing in your procedure. Don't say daily or weekly, because there will be days, weeks that you are not doing it. Then you will be cited if it's written in your policy that you're supposed to be reviewing weekly, for example, and you are not doing it, you will be cited. So you just say monthly, make it formally monthly. If you want to do it weekly or daily, do it, but don't put it in writing. Make it informally, okay? Very important. You need to keep your record, BERCAB, 2 years, BERSIBAHI, 3 years. Do buy one lot number for a whole year if possible. I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. معين. الحضور الكريم، ننتقل معكم إلى آخر عرض لهذا اليوم بعنوان Advice for Assessing Bad Blood Cholesterol, which will be delivered by Professor رائد البرادعي.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. طبعا احنا اليوم we want to introduce the device of total cholesterol and the bad of cholesterol. First of all, we need to explain why we are doing this device. Manually, the patient goes to the hospital and he has to fast 12 hours. And also, he has to go in early morning, and some of them have health problem. We make a portable device. Some people will tell me there is some device detecting cholesterol. We detect low cholesterol level, not the total cholesterol level. We're going to explain also how we prepare this. In the lab, they're using enzyme method, fluorochlor. They have different type techniques, and you have to separate the blood into two. First of all, you have to separate the serum, and after that, you have to get the serum in the different type of machines, and you have to test it in big machine. First of all, we need to explain why we are testing the cholesterol, and they have about 20 type to detect cholesterol, but we are detecting the low level cholesterol, not the total cholesterol level. This is the different techniques is being used on hospital, fluorescence, spectrometrics, different type. But our type, we are using electrochemical, means ندرس سلوك التفاعل الكهرومغناطيسي الكهروكيميكال، يعني بعد التفاعل بنحسب كمية التفاعل بنحولها we invert it as electrical. طبعا I will show the results, and we do the same things for the glucose. We coating the sensor, we put a Rosbeck sensor, and we preparing the oxidized nanoparticle titanium. I'm going to explain to you this in the slides. All these techniques has a problem for ascorbic acid and uric acid. They're detecting the wrong or false results. If the ascorbic acid and uric acid in the serum, they get a false result. We don't use these techniques. I'm going to show you what we are using, and after that, in very fast, I'm going to show you the patent certificate, because our project is in research. We're publishing the results in Q1 for 3 paper publication, and we got the certificate for the patents. This is first, we need to know some techniques, what we are using, because we produce a portable device. Portable يعني جهاز محمول. هذا يعني بحد ذاته is the new techniques. You can do it in your home, and from direct drop of blood, no need for separation. This is second patent, because I will show you the patents claims. You have to show and you write the claims, what you have to obtain for the claims. The glucose sensors, we using the same techniques as electrical chemo pulsing. We count it. Means in Arabic, we put the drop of the blood into a ship. We will produce chemical reaction. From this chemical reaction, we counting the cholesterol level, not all the total, the low. I will show you what we are using on that. But this is the type of technique we got an idea to develop our device. The same on glucose. Some people is using the same techniques. This is the research we are producing, and all to use the potential sensors for electrical chemo sensors. We build up the system, and we're using the enzyme link. We brought titanium nanoparticle powder. We dissolve it in a solution. We heat it in 180 centigrade. After that, we put the Rosbeck sensor to coat the sensors. Then we prepare the chips like a glucose. We're putting 1 drop of blood from a human. The sensor, the nanoparticle, will give reaction, oxidization, and the electrical pulses will appear. We counting. I will show you about the diagram. Now we shifting to biomedical. We stopping laboratory. We shifting to the biomedical device, And that's what I'm telling you. You have to cooperating. This, if you want to build up these eyes, you have to cooperate with people. And this work is not for me. I have a group, thank them in the end of that, from biomedical department in Faculty of Applied Medical Science. We're building the systems, we're having transmissions, and we make the cholesterol sensors, and we're producing the portable by using enzyme electrode, and we call that techniques is electrical chemo display. This is the titanium oxide nano powder, and this is very toxic. We got a good permission to use because we dissolving them in sulfuric acid, and we heat it in 180. After that, we prepare the cholesterol oxidization solution. Also, there is procedures, and this is our type of work we are producing. After that, we coating them in the slides, and here is the ship. We're producing these ships as after we coating with them with oxide nanoparticle, and we make a drop of the blood into the SIM card, and we producing. By the way, this card can be clean, can be reused. Also, this another claim of the patent means we clean this chip and then we can have another patient. This is another claim of point. I will show you the certificate of my patents. Also, we produce, this is my, by the way, this is not my work. This is in biomedical. This is not my work, and it's called Dr. Anand Sambos, who is in the previous department of biomedical science, who helped me to produce the ship, and we put the ships and we put the blood on that sample after we coating, and we start doing the system chat, and we got a volumetric 797 VA. This is the electrical. We count the low cholesterol level. This type of number 797 have a huge story to get it to our application system. And we're using maybe more than 2,000 times to find out this number of the chart. This is about the electrochemical results we're producing to get the points of the low cholesterol level, and also we're getting determined the low applications for the cholesterol for low density, and we finalize the determining of cholesterol, and we get sensitive about 92% from the result in the lab. I need to talk about future lab for testing the thyroid T4 and T3 level. It can be done by the same system we are producing. This project is in running with Al-Ma'rifa University, and we submitting because Dr. Sam Boss is shifting from Majma to Al-Ma'rifa University. Now we already processed this one with Al-Ma'rifa University. I need to send, we get some prizes in Korea first, in Kuwait, prize from Geneva. With this is, by the way, Sam Boss, who is the key person of making the device. I need to show you the certificate of the patents. Can you shift only for certificate, just very fast, to show you about this patent, because you can say to me you are a liar, because we're getting the certificate from this idea. Can you put the certificate for 1 minute only? This work was being carried for 3 years. The problem of research and patents. Don't say to me in patents you need 1 year and half minimum. Don't talk to me about more than this. It is unacceptable, and maybe it takes 3 years. This patents take 3 years to produce, and we have big teams. We called the detections of the cholesterol level, and we mentioning some techniques in electrical. Can you go the end about the patents very fast? This is the idea, the techniques you have to, when you write a patent, you have to not say I am producing, you have to say the previous techniques, what is the techniques you are using, what is the different type of techniques, how you obtain these techniques. This is the last one. Can you go for the previous pages? One pages. This is the ship, what we are producing also. The claim point. The claim point. This is, by the way, this is the Rosebeck, which is, you can buy it from the market and you coat it. What you coating in something you have to producing. يعني means بتجيب هذا الروزبيك، هذا أي سنسرز بيقرأ التفاعل الكيميائي الكهربائي. أنت بتسوي له patent، يعني بتطليه. You are patent on some what is reaction in the total blood. You can do this, but you have to have a lot of work to get this to be done. One more. Yes, this is the claim what we got. We say that the sensors has in platinums, we oxidizing them by titanium oxidizing nanoparticle, and you have to mention the oxidization of the patents, and you have to explain it for upstairs, the technique you are doing to get the patents, because the people, the examiners will examine your work. The other one is the ship, what we are producing. To approve the patents, you have to have the ship which is making the patents. I'm sorry, I need to explain to you, but the people is saying that you need, if you want to explain more, I can do, or I'm sorry, the time is finished. Thank you.
شكرا جزيلا للبروفيسور رائد. ننتقل معكم لفقرة الأسئلة. أحد عنده أي سؤال؟ المتحدثين اليوم مش فقط للدكتور رائد، لكل المتحدثين. في أحد عنده أي سؤال؟ عندك سؤال دكتورة؟
Thank you for all your speakers for a valuable presentation today. My question for Dr. Ma'in and Ms. Siham regarding the QC. Sometimes we have a conditions, we repeat the condition, the QC multiple times, still it's give us result outlier. We did more justification regarding changing the QC, but still we have outliers. Is the calibration, is the next step we should do to solve this issue?
I did not get the last sentence.
We try to...
I know you try to repeat and it's not working, but what
is the calibration for the instrument is the best way to justify the outlier result of the QC?
Well, first of all, you cannot report patient results if the QC is out, okay?
Yes.
Second, and I gave you some steps in order to troubleshoot the QC. You know, if you cannot solve it on your own, then you need to contact the manufacturer to come and troubleshoot your instrument, okay? And usually they will fix it and you will go back on track. If I understood your question correctly, but if you are you asking if you discover that the QC was out after you were reporting patient results, like you were reviewing?
No, before reporting the result, just doing the daily maintenance.
Yeah, daily you follow the steps I told you.
Yes.
Okay, and if it's you couldn't fix it on your own, then you contact your technical rep to come and look at your machine.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Okay, but if you discover that some of your technologists were in patients when the QC was out, okay, and you discover it soon, you should run the QC, you make sure that it is within the range, you take a few patients that were run and done randomly from the day that the QC was out, and then repeat it again to make sure that your patients were not affected, okay? Any other questions for me before? Okay, thank you.
أي أسئلة ثانية؟ عندك؟
أنا عندي اقتراح وليس سؤال. مع الجمع الطيب هذا اللي يسمعونه سواء أونلاين أو في حضوري، أنا أقترح الموضوع مثلا اللي أنا شرحته method validation، يعني I always prefer to be workshop وليس محاضرة في مؤتمر، لأن الميثود validation it's a practice hands on more than theoretical عشان to absorb المعلومة. فإذا أحد من المنظمين موجودين يقدرون يتبنون هذه الفكرة، يخلون الميثود validation. I don't know if Mr. Khan agree with me about making method validation a workshop for 2-3 days, not a lecture. لأنه really I didn't give it I didn't give you the sufficient information, let's say, for the precision and linearity, and I think Mr. Khan agree with me on the information presented. It's not sufficient for this purpose. So if we can have it as a workshop, we would like maybe Mr. Khan can participate. Thank you so much.
No, I fully endorse what Ms. Siam has said. The method validation is not like a lecture based, like 2-3 lecture and finish. I know even the precision is 35 pages long guideline. So the most important thing, how to do it. To understand how to do it, the only way is the workshop. You bring your data, you sit down with us, we open the Excel sheet, we open the evaluator, and we will tell you where to go, how to analyze the data. This is the only way to proceed. If you find the lecture in the YouTube, you will find hundreds of the lecture. So I fully endorse the suggestion that Siam did it. There is no other way except this way, to have a workshop, a fully workshop, a good workshop that have a multiple expert doing linearity, validation, all of them, so that the people will learn about this one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Khan. Thank you, Siham. I think it's a very good suggestion that we're going to have it in a workshop. As a Vice President of the Saudi Society for Clinical Laboratory Science Society, I promise you, inshallah, that we're gonna have it, inshallah. I'll try to organize it. I try to talk to Professor Khalid Al-Harbi, and maybe we can have like a workshop, round tables or whatever. And if Dr. Sahar, Dr. Mu'in, Siham, and Dr. Khan, they will come with us in this workshop, I'll do it for you. So, inshallah.
السيدات والسادة الحضور الكريم، من لا يشكر الناس لا يشكر الله. في ختام سيشن 1 يشرفنا تكريم المتحدثين تعبيرا عن امتناننا لهم لتلبيتهم دعوتنا ولما قدموه لنا من معلومات قيمة. نجاحكم وتميزكم يسعدنا، سائلين الله لكم التوفيق والسداد. يتفضل الدكتور عبد العزيز سيري والدكتور عبد الرحمن السليمان لتكريم المتحدثين. نبدأ بسعادة الدكتورة سحر الدوسري، فلتتفضل مشكورة. البروفيسور محمد بن عثمان الركبان. الدكتورة سهام يعقوب الزيد. مستر عبدول خان. الدكتور معين حسيب. والآن تكريم المشاركين في تنظيم المؤتمر.
هو أكرمنا من قبل. لا هو هذا حد واجب الحين. طيب نكمل مرة ثانية.
يتفضل بروفيسور رائد البرادعي للتكريم. بالنسبة للمشاركين في تنظيم المؤتمر يتفضل فلاح الرويلي. بندر تركي المنثشري. أحمد عصام الدريور. عياد الشمري. ديما المالكي. في ديما المالكي؟ ما في أحد ياخذها بدالها؟
واحدة منكم.
يلا تفضل واحدة من البنات.
بدأ ترجعي تاخذي شهادتك مرة ثانية.
شهد السلولي. في شهد؟
هذه شهد.
أنت أوكي طيب. طيف السلطان. أروى السرهيد. محطوطها
ستي كسرة.
لجين العسوس. ريناد السبعي. ريناد. كما ونشكر اللجنة العلمية دكتور عبد العزيز الكثيري، دكتور عبد الرحمن السليمان، دكتور وليد التميمي، دكتور أحمد باسوادان، دكتور رائد فرزان، بروفيسور رائد البرادعي. أيها الحضور الكريم، إلى هنا قد أنهينا محاضراتنا لسيشن 1 لهذا اليوم. شكرا لحسن استماعكم. نأخذ بريك لمدة نص ساعة ونعود بعدها لنبدأ محاضرة سيشن 2. شكرا لكم.